Hello and welcome to Future Shorts. I'm Ram Gayoso from Futures Television, joined by world-class futurist Joyce Joya, author of the Herman Trend Alert. The alert comes out every week on Wednesday, and we're getting a preview of what will be said. The alert is available on www.hermangroup.com, and you can find a link to the report on the description section of this video below. Hi, Joyce. How wonderful to see you.
It's wonderful to see you too. And I discovered that I look very fuzzy and I was trying to fix it and I don't know how. But we live with technology and sometimes the magic works and sometimes it's more challenging.
Yes, because especially because I was looking at you just a second ago when you look absolutely stunning as always.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
So in today's Future Shots, we're doing the second part of the neuroplasticity, and today we will focus on the steps we can take to create new behavior. That's very useful. So, Joyce, let's do a quick recap. So, what is neuroplasticity anyway?
Neuroplasticity is the ability of our brains to change and adapt, to recover from trauma, and even to continue to evolve.
So, how does neuroplasticity work to help us form habits?
Well, as we repeat the same actions or behaviors, our brains form neuronal connections. As we age, these connections create brain pathways which facilitate the habits. And whether these habits are positive, like my habit of working out every morning, or negative, like stressing out over common situations. Fortunately, that's not one of my problems. There is a kind of inertia that happens because the pathways have become permanently imprinted in our brains.
Can you explain this a little bit better? So, how
Yeah,
is it that
sure.
those habits become imprinted?
Yeah, it has to do with a substance that you probably have heard something about called dopamine.
Hmm.
And dopamine gives us the reward of feelings of happiness and pleasure. And what happens is that as we imprint these pathways, that those feelings of happiness and pleasure become associated with particular actions. So we continue to perform and repeat the actions in order to get that dopamine release. So eventually, there comes a time when just thinking about performing that action gives us the same reward. It's a little bit like Pavlov's dog, that our brains work in the same way. And that event, the scientists call an anticipatory dopamine surge. We may experience that feeling with yearnings for food or drugs or other addictive substances.
So, the chocolate stuff.
Yeah, some people would say the good stuff, right? But this premature dopamine surge encourages us to repeat the behavior. And whether it's a good behavior or a not so good behavior, they still get imprinted. And what happens is that there's also an inertia that's part of this whole thing. And that is that we it's what's familiar is what we keep doing, and that's why when we want to change some bad habits, sometimes it's a little challenging.
Yeah, so I have a sugar problem. So if you tell me, you cannot eat any chocolate, then I go on some kind of a, binge eating. But actually, I have like several pieces of chocolate in the house, so I can look at it and I know how it tastes and I know what it is, but I don't have to eat it because it's right there. So it's my choice. I can look at this and make a decision. I know what it is. I know what it tastes, right? I can't open the whole thing and eat it. It's not exactly a very good idea, my kids. But at least I guess I get this idea of, I get the sensation of the anticipation. But sometimes that's all I needed, because the other part of the brain is saying, "Thou shalt not eat the whole box of
I
chocolate."
understand only too well, believe me. A moment on the lips, forever on the hips.
Okay, that's that. Okay, moment in the lips, forever in the hips. I'm gonna make a note of that. That's wise. Now let's talk a little bit about those habits that we rather get rid of. So how may we use this neuroplasticity concept to overcome those bad habits, the things that I want to get rid of?
Well, here's the good news. We can replace bad habits with good ones. And not all of us are capable of doing what you're capable of doing, which is to have, in a sense, the thought count for the deed, right?
It's tough, but
most
sometimes
most
I
people are
succeed.
not that talented, my friend. And sometime maybe you'll have to give me some more insights into how you do that. Incidentally, you are not the only person who had a sugar addiction. The fellow by the name of Mahatma Gandhi at one time had a sugar addiction, until a woman came to him and asked him to tell her son to stop eating sugar. What
Hmm.
she did was she told him to come back he told her, come back in 2 weeks. And when she did, she looked at the son, and he looked at the son, and he said, "Young man, stop eating sugar." And the woman was shocked. She said, "Oh, great Mahatma, I'm so glad you told my husband, my son, to stop eating sugar, but why could you not do that 2 weeks ago?" And he said, "Ah, madam, then I was eating sugar." Isn't that a great story? I just love that one.
It's a fabulous. And by the way, the Indian sweets are delicious. I have a few of them that I particularly like. So they're tough to resist.
Okay, so I'm going to get back to answering your question now. I just couldn't resist sharing that story. So, the good news is that we can replace the bad habits with good habits. And it's a little bit like the fact that two two things cannot share the same space at the same time. So, our brains are like that too. And if we are constantly bombarding our brains with positive messages, we are going to have a guest here. I believe it's on the 28th of November. On my show, It's Your Future with Joyce Joya, whose name is Neil Young. And Neil talks about what he calls incantations, which are what we used to call affirmations. And he is constantly bombarding his brain with these positive messages. And in so doing, he is eliminating the space that could be occupied by those negative messages. Many of us have these negative messages that our brains are constantly running, these negative tapes. But when you're constantly telling yourself how wonderful you are, how great how many achievements you've made, how you are capable of having it all. And when you keep bombarding yourself with these positive messages, there's just no room for the negativity. Well, it's the same with habits. When you keep replacing bad habits with good ones, and you're constantly giving yourself good messages, and you're reinforcing the messages with other positive rewards that you are giving yourself, whether it's to feel good about something that happened or to feel a good expectation about something that will happen, that eliminates the bad habits because they have no place to be.
Okay, so let's go and talk a little bit about something else. So you came up with this idea of the 11 steps we can use to create new behavior patterns. Let's go over those 11 steps.
Honestly, I cannot take credit for it. The person who came up with those 11 steps is a woman named Kendra Cherry. And I happened to find a piece that she had written on the web. And that is where these 11 steps came from. I always want to give credit where credit is due. So, the first step is to identify your particular triggers. Now, I know that some of my triggers are when I don't eat on a regular basis. That means that when I do eat, I'll sometimes overeat. Another trigger of mine is not getting enough rest. It's and God only knows what's going to happen when I don't get enough rest. I'm very tempted to eat the wrong things. I'm very tempted to procrastinate. All of those things I don't want to have be part of who I am right now. So I have identified my triggers. The second element is to foster a healthy learning environment. Keep learning, keep growing, keep putting in new information into your brain, keep expanding what you're capable of doing in different ways. One of my favorite people is a guy named Alan Weiss. And Alan is one of the top consultants in the entire world. And in his book, Million Dollar Consulting, and in his seminars, Alan always says, put something into your your contracts, one activity that you've never done before. It'll give you a chance to expand your capabilities and to get good at something else. So, when we foster a healthy learning environment in our lives, that can make a profound difference. The third one is to learn a new language.
Okay.
Acquiring a new language improves our vocabulary, it enhances creativity, it strengthens our problem solving skills. It even increases the capacity of our brains. Plus, and this is one of the things I love because I love to travel, when we learn a new language, and even if it's just a few words, it gives us a new place on which we can create a relationship with folks who speak that language. Number four is to learn to play a musical instrument. Now, I believe that part of that is listening to music. And when I write my Herman Trend alert, when I wrote my recent book, I listen almost constantly to Pandora's smooth jazz instrumentals channel. In fact, what happens is that music helps me focus and it makes me feel good. So it puts me in a better mood, it boosts my memory, it improves concentration. And best of all, some researchers say that it will slow down the cognitive decline in older people.
And that's
So
good, something good for all of us. You know, folks, for the rest of the list, stay tuned. Let's go and take a look at the new Herman Trend Alert. It's being released at the time we're speaking right now, and you're going to find the link to the Herman Trend Alert on the description section of this video. It was wonderful to see you again today, Joyce, and I will see you next week.
looking forward. Thank you so much, Mom.
Bye bye.